All right, welcome to the Cutting Edge Cosplay Podcast, where your fellow geek girls hang out and talk all things cosplay. So today we're going to talk a little bit about DC Bombshells.
Yay!
Hi, Bears. Do you want to tell us a little bit more background on these characters and...
Sure. So DC Bombshells is actually kind of a newer addition to the DC franchise. There is an artist named Art Lucia who did all of the concept art for a bunch of the characters, all females. He designed all of these characters in 2011, and they have heavy inspiration from World War II. So he designed them by looking at different propaganda ads and different war machines and what was going on culturally in the 1940s and late 30s, and designed all of these characters with those influences in mind. It was pitched to DC as an actual, product line, and they ended up making a bunch of 9-inch figurines in 2014, one of those years. And massively successful. Very shortly thereafter, Marguerite Bennett took those statues and made an actual narrative story about it. In order to tell the narrative, they decided to take a couple of different main DC heroines and told their stories using different narrative styles. So Wonder Woman is told as this story of war, and funny enough, is actually, as I was reading these stories, everything sounded so familiar. Why is this story so familiar? And it's because this story came out in 2015.
Like 10 years ago.
Yeah. And shortly thereafter, the Wonder Woman movie came out. And almost line for line, the Wonder Woman movie that you see with Gal Gadot is using the Bombshell storyline, and they just put it in a different war. It's pretty, I think they should have just gone with Bombshells, personally.
Honestly.
But look at this outfit. Isn't that dope? Whatever. Okay. They made their choice. So Wonder Woman's story is a wartime story. You have Stargirl's story is a propaganda story. It's different than a war story because they basically defect from the Russian side. You have Batwoman's story is more of like a radio drama and like a fun detective story. It's fun because you get to hear all of these different ways that stories were told in the 40s in these comics. So they do an incredible job making this really fun, accessible, and really focused on women are able to fight these fights and do these incredible things and go on these incredible journeys. And they don't need the heroes to be there. The heroines can do it on their own. And it's pretty great. And there's a bunch of DC characters in them. You've got everyone from Poison Ivy to Wonder Woman to Zatanna to basically any female DC character you can think of makes an appearance in these books.
Even Joker's daughter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Duella Dent in it too. Yeah. Cool. Joker's daughter. So I highly recommend anybody, first of all, look at the art. It's great. It's incredible. And then as soon as you're done looking at the figurines and the illustrations, read the comics. They're also a really good time.
So when we're picking our quarterly cosplays for our cosplay group, Cutting Edge Cosplay Group, this was one of them that we decided to do. And lucky for us, a lot of the cosplays actually, they had their own simplicity patterns. And also, for a time, Hot Topic was selling like dresses and stuff for these characters as well. So, right, like this year, these things weren't very accessible to us. But, back when these comics originally came out, it was very accessible to cosplay these characters. And there's a lot of stuff online for what people did to create them as well. So Bears and I were lucked out because they had the simplicity patterns. I ended up having to get mine, I think, used on eBay. Luckily, I had everything for this. One of my simplicity patterns that I bought used was missing some stuff, some vital stuff. So luckily I had everything from this. And that was super helpful since I'm still very new at the whole cosplay thing. And this was my first comic character to cosplay. So yeah, and this comic series was great for us to pick from too, because there's so many characters to choose from and they look great and their personalities are awesome because they do have in the comics like their own like side stories. So yeah, I thought that this was such a great option for our group to pick to cosplay from. You want to talk about our characters or like, okay, let's talk about who we chose first. So I guess I'll start since I'm talking already. Originally, I wanted to pick a different character, but she wasn't really that, she wasn't in the comics. There wasn't really a lot about her. There's only a couple pictures. And I think her name is Diana. She's a Wonder Girl. So and her character seems really cool, but in other universes, not in the DC Bombshells. So that's probably something I might explore later. But I liked her black and white outfit. And so then I was like kind of looking through some of the other characters, and Batwoman is the star right off the bat of the storyline. And she's so funny and so I was like, okay, this is definitely like a close second for me. And I just love the like pop of red, the red and black. It was like, it looked so cool to me and she's so funny. So that's why I chose her.
I ended up choosing Stargirl. Not a character I know very well, but she looked kind of like a Bewitched kind of character.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be fun. Plus I've done Harley so many other times before and some of the other normal ones. So honestly, I didn't really know anything about Stargirl. She just had like some magic stick thing that she got like passed down from her dad from like the stars or asteroids or something like that. It's a magic stick. But overall very like patriotic looking, which is kind of interesting because again, the whole propaganda, like defecting from the Russian army or military or whatever it is. So, so that's how I chose her.
That's funny. I chose mine for the exact opposite reason. She's like, oh, I've already done all these other characters. I don't think I'm going to go with something I've never done before. And I was like, you know who I like doing? Wonder Woman. So I chose Wonder Woman because I always do Wonder Woman, and had a blast. I learned a lot with this. We'll get to how we made our costumes very shortly, but I really liked how she kind of just goes all in to this war. Basically, Steve washes up on her shore, sound familiar, and is like, hey, we need help with the war, and you're freaking powerful, sound familiar. Maybe you should steal all of those weapons that your people are keeping in this really special place and come help me fight the war, sound familiar. And so she does those things and goes and helps fight the war. And she's so funny because she is so, I don't know if precious is quite the right word, but she's hearing him talk about tanks and things. And she's like, okay, sounds kind of like a big old tortoise or something. And legitimately expects to see gigantic like creatures helping these people fight a war for some reason. And when she sees it, she's like, what the heck is this? That's not what I was expecting at all. She's so cute. It's just so great. I just love how like, I guess naive, but still so willing to help no matter what. I love her. She's great. Wonder Woman for life.
I think very similar to Bears, I also chose somebody that I've done 7 times and this is my 8th time kind of a thing. God. So like it was a no-brainer for like many reasons why I chose Starfire. I had been wanting to do Bombshell Starfire for literal years and just never got around to it or put other things in front of it or thought it would be too tough or whatever. And this was like finally the reason to do it, which I'm like so glad. We were like, let's do DC Bombshells. And I'm like, yes, this is the reason. Let's go.
My moment has come.
The time has come. So I finally got to start working on her. I have one of her like little figurines. It's not the official 8-inch one or 9-inch, however tall they are. But it's like, I think it's called Rock Candy. It's kind of like more of a chibi version of her, but it's like equally adorable. And I just have that like on my desk, and I'm like, one day I'll do this. And then the day finally came. And so she's just so cute, so witty. Like on her original statue, she's pouring a bucket of water on her hair, which is made of fire, which is just adorable. But in the comics, she's like this no nonsense, badass firefighter babe, who like has berserker energy when like people piss her off and stuff. And she's just, it was all of the right reasons to cosplay her. So I'm curious what everybody's process was like. Once you chose your character, how did you start the build or making process?
Well, Danny finished hers real fast.
Yeah, you were quick.
Yeah, I binged it.
Because Danny's motivation for getting this one actually finished was to get it done by Emerald City Comic Con, which was actually 2 months before our due date for this outfit. So she was completely done before I had even started. So.
Oh my gosh. That's true. And I was the last one to pick my character too. I think everyone had picked theirs like weeks before. I was like, fine, I'm going to do this one. She looks cool. Let's go. And I bought the pattern, and I think like pretty soon after when it arrived in the mail, I went and got the fabric. So I got the cheapest cotton that they sold at Joann's. And I mean, it might have been even like broadcloth or something. Like I wanted a very flat matte color. And so that's why that worked for me. I didn't need any like specialty fabrics or anything. And then I learned what interfacing and batting was. And then I got a few things on Amazon. Batting, yeah. A few things on Amazon. So this hat I got on Amazon. This plastic bat, because I wanted to make it con safe. If I brought a normal bat, it would have been 1, too heavy. 2, I probably would have gotten turned around at the door. They would have probably told me to put it in the car. So I wanted something I could carry around with me. So this plastic one on Amazon. I got my gloves. I don't have them with me, but just baseball gloves on Amazon. So all of that was like super fast, just online shopping. And then I went to Dick's Sporting Goods and got the cleats, the baseball socks that I ended up coloring in with a Sharpie for the stripes. Let's see what else. And then I think the cleats, the belt. I could have sewed the belt myself, but they sold them, and that shaved off some time. So I didn't have to do that. So I just bought a red belt. And I got my wig was from Rockstar Wigs, which was I feel like that like made the costume, honestly. It was like my dodgy sewing project. It was like one of my first cosplays that I sewed myself. So I did spend a little more money on the wig because I felt like that was like an iconic piece to her like personality, was her hair. And I'm really glad I did, because that really sold the costume, I think. And I got green contacts only for the photo shoot. For the most part, I didn't really wear them. So that was just kind of like the build things. A lot of it was kind of easy to buy, really fast. I didn't have any problems really with the pattern, even though it was like my first time sewing. I did have to redo a lot of my stitching, but that was like user error, not so much with the pattern. It was pretty self-explanatory on what to do. So that's kind of why this didn't take me very long. Everything was just kind of easy to throw together. Right, you guys?
Are you guys ready for a rant?
Oh, good.
Yes.
So, I can't really wear any of my costume anymore because it kind of all disintegrated. Plus, I just really want to set every bit of it on fire and throw the ashes in a mirror-lined box and bury it in the deepest part of the sea possible.
About this.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, honestly, personal life gets in the way sometimes. So I literally only had 2 days to put this costume together, which normally isn't a problem. And honestly, it did get together really well, except for the fact that like when it came to getting in front of a camera, that's when it started falling apart. Like I would put like a piece on and then another piece. And then as I'm putting the third piece on, then the first one would start falling off. And then I would fix that. And then the second piece would start falling off. And then like something would go wrong with every single piece that I put on this costume. I'm like, what the fuck? Like this was fine last night. It looked great. And like, thank God Planisphere is great at making people look good because the photos look all right, but definitely wasn't anything that I did to help with that. Because I'm sure my face was just like boiling with rage and like partially twitching on like hearing like different pieces come off and everything. Like these actually turned out really good. But I used like 8 different kinds of adhesive and different parts kept falling off. So like, as you can see, there was contact cement, there was spray adhesive, there was super glue, there was regular tape, there was duct tape. We also ended up using double-sided tape and nothing was holding it together. Like it just, and it was fine before, it just kept popping off. Like I used actual shin guards and just attached things onto it. Like luckily the stars stayed, but those are because they were pre-cut like felts that already had adhesive, and I just stuck them onto everything. They were great because I used those on my pants and like on, on everything.
Cute. Yeah.
My little goggle things that I made, like the little, you can see, kind of kept popping out. And then not only that, but my eyelashes kept hitting them because they were too close to my eyes. So I couldn't actually see. So I'm kind of going like this as I'm trying to fix different parts of the costume and like still kind of like pose. And it was not working. Actually, these I was pretty proud of when I did kind of figure out how to make them, because they are actually I think they're supposed to be for softball. They had extra plastic on the bottom because they're supposed to protect your orbital bone if a ball hits you in the face. And so I took a Dremel, I took like a razor, I took all kinds of things to this, and I couldn't get, or like I couldn't cut it out. It would just like off onto the side and other things. I found these big ass like clippers that you can use to cut PVC pipe, and those worked. They just weren't very detailed. So I got the main, especially on, worked on one eye, but then the other eye, like all the angles were wrong. So I did eventually kind of get it to work. And then I did take like an X-Acto knife that had kind of more of a hook shape to it to kind of like scoop out the rest of it. And then this is just like very thin plastic that I took a Sharpie to. And so I scribbled on it, and then like I smudged it with my finger, and then I cut it out and I taped it on. And then, yeah, it obviously didn't stay very well, but yeah, so I also, the time of the year, it's really hard to find gloves of any kind when it's not the winter or Halloween or whatever. So I found those like nitrile gloves, like they're not latex, but they're close. But they're like a powder blue, which was not the right shade for this. So I found some house paint that was a darker shade of blue, and I put the gloves on, and I just kind of did this, like rubbed it in, let them dry, did like another coat, and then like again let them dry, and then I made my little like cuffs to put onto one, cover the edge of the glove, and they kind of had like that look,
like bell bottom,
yeah, where they kind of pop out and everything. These are like the best thing that I made in the costume. They didn't fall apart. Like my okay, so the belts. I was lucky with everything I found.
Do we have a picture at all on the comics of Stargirl?
I was originally looking for a swimsuit. Just because like she's got that kind of haltered shape, like a flat top, and then like kind of goes into like these shorties. All of the it is the right time of year for swimsuits. But all the swimsuits I could find were more of like a bikini butt shape, which wasn't quite the look that I was going for. I was like, I found a few things that were kind of close, but they all had patterns, and like I was just like, well, I could like dye it somehow or whatever, but fine, whatever. So I had some in my hands, and then I walked. I'm like, thank God for Target. I found some weird shit there.
Target has some weird stuff right now.
They're
going through a phase, I think.
I don't know, whatever's trendy now. But I walked past this like it was like a denim crop top, like fairly straight, but it had like the little boob shapes in it or whatever, like top with like these like spaghetti straps. I was just like, I might be able to use that. And it was a little too big, but I'm like, it's fine. It'll be fine. And so I grabbed that, and like not only that, but they had like these super high waisted like jean shorts that were like cut off like Daisy Dukes basically. Somehow I was able to fit in those, even though my butt kept popping out of the bottom. But I was like, yeah, it's fine, it's good enough. And so it was just like colors.
That's a positive thing.
Yeah. Like colors don't quite match, but it's close enough, and they're both denim. So let's just grab both of these. And then I went to another store because I figured I'd probably have to use like some cardboard with like some red fabric. Somehow I found this big red fashion belt, also too big for me. Because like there was the fat part, and then I had a thinner part that like went around to like go through the little ring things to hold it onto you. I ended up cutting the thin part off of it, cutting that in half, and then I used that as like the little red strap thing. So I cut the spaghetti straps off of the weird denim top thing. And then I used the thin part of the belt, cut in half, to go around as like the halter thing. Which I also use like Velcro to kind of like hold sides of it down, to kind of hold it in place, but those kept popping off also. And then, the belt, I also had a way to attach that, which also worked, except for like when I walked up in front of the camera, it decided to like come off, and I'm like, what the heck? So luckily Danny found me some string, and I'm just like, wrap this fucking thing up. Like, I was so mad. It was too thick to like sew anything through.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that thing was like a dead animal. Like it was
thick. It had rhinestones on it. Like, this thing is bulky. And I'm like, oh, fuck it, it's good enough. And but yeah, and then luckily these like little felt star things, I found a pack of them with like multiple sizes and everything. They were red, white, and blue. I only needed the white ones. And so I used those on like the sides of my pants. And then for like the denim top, I just had like a really big piece of like white felt, and that's the only like star that I like hand cut myself. All these other ones were like already done, which was great. But yeah, it's just bad thing after bad thing after bad thing.
Gosh.
Like overall, it looked great if it held together, but it was so frustrating. Oh yeah, and then also like at the photo shoot, I was like, I probably need to have that like magic stick thing. Kind of forgot about that.
Oh no.
So I'm like frantically trying to like twist up some cardboard or poster board or whatever to like put this thing together with tape, and then the tape's falling apart. I'm like, fuck it, it's good enough.
No, that was funny. While we were recording TikToks, and Bunny was back there like,
They're like, what are you doing? All of a sudden there's just magic stick that just popped up. Like, where did that come from?
I'm making my weapon.
It was really fun to have the different props though, especially playing around with the photos that we did. So like I would have my bat like on one side, and then she would have her magic stick on the other, and then Bears in the center would have this like, well, either her rope that she had for her cosplay, or we had this the neon, I don't know, Rebecca, if you remember when we did our cyberpunk shoot, I had that neon rope. So we did we just made it like a yellow white color, and so she used that for some pictures as well. But yeah,
the lasso of truth looks way better when it's glowing. Out, so
yeah,
then it's working.
We're so fun.
Yeah.
What did you use for? Did you use the poster board stuff for that magic stick of yours?
Yeah. So it's basically the same kind of stuff that I use this. Like, this is just poster board. I found like metallic gold of the same thing. And so I just cut it in long strips as they're doing fun little TikToks and photos and looking super cute, as I'm just like frantically like cutting and rolling and taping. And like I actually have duct tape that's the same like gold as like the poster board, but I couldn't find it.
Oh no.
I've like been moving, there's stuff everywhere, and for all I know, it could be in a storage unit somewhere. So I found a glittery gold one that I was just like, this is fine, it'll be close enough. So I was using that, but it's not as sticky as the other one. So like I would wrap some stuff up, and then like some the tape would kind of like do this, as like I'm on the other end. I'm like, God damn it, just like the rest of my costume.
God damn it. But you also did your hair, which was really cute. And then you also did some tattoos because I think she has some stuff going on.
Yeah, so she has like this tattoo thing going up her arm. I just used like a dark blue eyeliner pencil.
Oh, okay.
And like I did some lines and then I kind of like smudged them a little bit, add some more lines, smudge them a little bit. I took a few different shades of blue eyeshadow and I kind of added them in kind of in between. And then I also had like these little sequin type, like little plastic, sparkly plastic, whatever it is, stars that I bought like a huge pack of those too. And I bought them like, it was a big thing that had like every color possible. And so I grabbed some of the red ones, some of the blue ones, and some of the like just like silver ones. And I used eyelash glue and I attached them to my arm just to, because I'm like, I'm not going to draw any more stars. Like pre-cut, like made stars or how I'm going to do this thing. Yeah. Especially when it's like on my arm. I'm like,
it's so difficult to do those with eyeliner. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like any sort of detail, things like that.
Yeah. So I glued little stars on my arm. I glued a couple on my cheek because she's got 2 red ones on her cheek. And I think one's actually a little bit bigger than the other, but I'm like, these ones are only the same size. So good enough. And then later in the day, I think we ended out recording another episode that same day. And I still kept them on there, but like they kept kind of like sliding. And then it would be like red glue that you could see underneath it just because it was like pulling away the dye from the little stars.
Oh my God.
So I kind of kept having to make sure that I was like putting them back in place so I didn't have like this like red mark on my cheek.
Just like scars, scars.
That's so Pause this episode, go hop over to the anime episode and see if you can see the stars on her face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they're still there.
And then come back. We've got more to tell you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think my hair was still kind of in place for that episode. I know when I was changing out of the costume, like the little swirl of hair that she has, like for her like bangs. I'm sure you can't see that very well. And my finger is probably just on top of it. She had like this like swirl. And like by the end of it, it was like, kind of doing like a weird like untwirling thing. But it was still very like tight spiral, but off a bit. So I kind of kept trying to like put it back and hope for the best, but
it was really cute. I think you did. Yeah, you did well. Yeah.
But that was after the photo, so at least that waited. But but yeah, that was my nightmare, and I never want to do this costume again. So
everybody's got that one costume that they are never going to talk about ever again, and so I think we found bunnies.
Yeah.
Fuck that costume.
It's fine. Rebecca, how did your Starfire go?
It was a much longer process than Danny's, it sounds like.
I
part of it is my own doing because I wanted to start it really early just because I knew there were going to be so many layers of paint on so many different things. And Bears probably understands part of this too, because I think we got very similar base boots. Mm-hmm. And then used leather paint to paint them. And that stuff like takes so many coats. And in order to paint one side, you have to like, I at least waited for it to dry so I could paint the other side because I didn't have something to like stuff the boot with so it could stand on its own. So I had to like do it half and half and half and half. And then like I painted the sole of it and everything. So I had to wait for that to dry. It was a lot of waiting for paint to dry.
Pool floaty.
For this whole
you need
project.
to get a pool floaty. For next, shove a pool floaty,
a pool noodle
in those.
That was my motto of making my boots. Is wow, I really should have bought a pool noodle.
Yeah, I think that would have been so helpful. Like I had tried to tape the bottom of the shoe to like a heavy cardboard box just to like stick it up, but the tape would eventually like lose its stick and it would start to kind of tower. And I'm like, nope, we're not going to do that. That's not going to be safe. So. It took a little longer than I would have liked, but I started it early enough where I wasn't too worried about it. So we just kind of rolled with it. The sewing took a long time too. I have her jacket right here and I'm so happy with like how it turned out because I added all these like gold buttons and the bias tape and the lining on the sleeves and like all of the lavender or lilac parts on the inside and the outside of like everything. But all of it was hand stitched because I didn't have a sewing machine at that time. And it took freaking forever.
Oh my God.
So I would turn on Marvelous Miss Maisel and just sew for evenings and evenings and evenings. And
oh my God.
so that helped pass the time, but I would totally do that differently. But that took a while. I'm very happy with how it turned out though. So like no regrets, but I would never hand sew it again. You know?
Yeah.
I would totally make it again, but I would machine sew it. So just a lot of sewing, a lot of painting. It was kind of a combination of buying and making as well. Like the base outfit was mostly bought. So like the socks, the skirt, the bodysuit, the suspenders, her little like green gems I just borrowed from her other cosplays because they're pins, luckily. And so I just pinned those on the suspenders. So I didn't have to worry about those. The hat that I'm wearing right now was like one of those like adult costume fireman hats that was like all black. And so I took off the front like shiny badge thing. I sanded all of it so the paint would stick because it was too shiny for the paint to stick otherwise. So I sanded the hat, which is a weird feling.
Yeah.
And then again, paint, weight, and then made this like front plate out of foam and different layers of paint for that too. And so it was a mixture of buying and making, but I kind of liked that because while I was waiting for paint to dry on one thing, I could be like working on something else or ordering something else or trying this on and like altering it. And so the paint drying ended up not being like the end of the world if I had something else to do in the meantime.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The hat looks great. I didn't know it was foam at the front, but it makes sense now that you say that.
Yeah. It's just, pardon my now hat hair, but it's like, you might be able to kind of see like where the foam piece actually is.
Okay.
But I just like I did the classic cosplayer patterning thing of like put masking tape on the front part, draw it out, cut it out. So I knew at least like the basic shape to like make the foam placket thing. And then just like double tested it and then glued it right on. So yeah, it was the whole thing. I'm so glad I did it. It was so satisfying to have it done and to see it all together. And it really turned out very well. I'm very happy with it, but it was a long process, but I'm glad I did it.
It looks so great.
I love that all the colors like match each other too. So like the fabrics with like the paint on the boots and the hat and everything, like it's all the exact same colors. It's perfect.
I know. It's like I was worried about that because that's a risk that you run if you're buying parts of it. Like you're like, I hope these are the same purple. I hope these are the same lilac. And luckily lilac seems to be like a pretty consistent color. Purple is a little bit more ambiguous. And so like the purple of the boot is just a little different than the purple of the jacket, but not so much to matter. And
There's
so the lilacs were the same.
Nice. You've got enough leg there to hide the difference.
Space in between.
So what was it like with the body paint?
So that I wouldn't say I cheated on it. I was very strategic because I knew that I had a white like bodysuit as part of her costume, and white plus body paint never works because you're going to get the paint on the white suit and then it will never be white again.
Okay.
And so I have like some orange tights that I use just like for my legs. Some outfits for her I can't use them for, but some of them I can, like for Teen Titans or for this one where it's a skirt. You just throw tights on so you don't have to worry about painting your legs, which is great. You can now fit on any surface and not worry about leaving leg marks on it.
Oh my God.
So that's great. So I had those and I had I was shocked that they had these. I wanted to not paint my arms because I didn't want to get orange on the white cuffs because I knew like washing this was going to be a pain in the ass and I didn't want to like keep remaking cuffs. And so I was like, let's try to avoid that. And I had white gloves. So I was like, So I found some like athletic compression sleeves for like bikers and runners and stuff.
Okay.
And they came in like neon orange. So they're like a little bit brighter than everything else. But again, it's kind of far apart enough that you can't really tell. And so I had like glove and then sleeve and then jacket. And so that's fabric. So the only parts I actually had to paint were my face and my chest.
I had no idea. Wow. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so that cut down. I was a little worried about the chest paint coming off on the bodysuit, and it did just a little bit, and that's unavoidable, but like it wasn't the end of the world. It's better than everything getting orange on it. And with the bodysuit, it's like one piece that you might have to replace versus the whole shebang.
Right.
So, yeah.
How long? Sorry, I had a possession moment.
Get out of her.
The ghost of cosplay is past.
Oh my God.
How long did that costume end up taking you when all was said and done?
I really should have done like a time log for it because I have no idea. Because and it's tough to tell. It kind of reminds me of the process when I made my Ayla the Huntress as well, because that was just a slow process of do a little bit when you can, whenever you can kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like with this one, it was like 2 hours in the evening on this day. And then on Friday, maybe an hour doing this, and then do a coat of paint and walk away. And so it's just so hard to tell. But like I did it over the process of probably like 2 months, but it certainly wouldn't take 2 months to do. Like if you really just like sat down and did it. But that's probably how long my more leisurely waiting process was for it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For Wonder Woman was an interesting building experience for me because we just have, not recently anymore, but we have a Twitch stream where every Tuesday night I show my crafting process, welcome people to my bear cave, and we craft together. And since it's the Cutting Edge Cosplay Twitch stream, it's when I'm doing my craft nights there, I'm only going to be working on Cutting Edge Cosplay group projects. So Bombshell Wonder Woman was my very, very first ever live stream performative crafting, I guess. I was doing all these different tactics for the first time ever on a stream. And so that was a really interesting experience. Lots of learning as I went. And this costume has lots of parts to it. So it was nice to have that kind of moral support in the background where I was like, I don't know what to do next. Somebody in the chat would be like, oh, I know how to sew. Here's what this pattern is trying to tell you. Danny was kind of saying like, lucky for us two, there's this pattern by Simplicity. And I actually am gonna low-key disagree. The Wonder Woman pattern did have all the pieces to it, but I think that the overall, the shirt was all right. The shorts didn't work. The headband I kind of sort of used. I think that my point being though is that don't bend over backwards to try to find the Bombshell Wonder Woman pattern by Simplicity.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to make so many modifications that it will be easier to just find a shirt style that you like and find a free pattern and do that. I don't have any advice for you whatsoever on the shorts. Hot. I will say this. I spent probably 20 plus hours making first I made the shorts pattern, didn't fit at all. So where it wants me to pin the waist is here, which as you can see is way too big. So refining the shorts, figuring out how to make them actually flattering, because there's so many. If you can make shorts or pants at all, you are a sewing god. Anyways, these ones didn't work out. So I ended up, after all the patterning and repatterning, and like, I am not trying to talk down about myself. I worked really hard. I did a pretty close job. I learned how zippers on pants work, and so that was great. But these ones didn't work out for me. I ended up putting them on and deciding to myself, you know what? Maybe I'm just looking too closely at them. Maybe these errors that I'm seeing are just because I've been working this pattern myself so many times that I'm only seeing the negatives. You know, everybody does this. It is a pretty, human nature, unfortunately, is to only see your flaws for a while. So I ordered a couple of pairs of shorts off Amazon that were the same kind of color, did a little fashion show. I'm going to say these are worse. Cute. I don't think these are good Wonder Woman shorts, but I do think I will keep them. And was like, okay, here are the shorts I made. So pros, pockets, very spacious size, fits my waist like a glove, is great, it's very comfortable. We're going to compare them to shorts on Amazon because maybe that's just how shorts fit, and found some that were very cute. And it has pockets. That's like my number one requirement. And so upgraded to the Amazon ones. My shorts weren't as bad as I thought, but there was an option that was better. The shirt was another whole sewing experience. I recommend you make a shirt like this. The only thing about this shirt, the shorts, luckily, the shorts that I bought on Amazon came up higher than the ones that I was making myself, which was a blessing because the shirt pattern ended up coming to like here. So like normal shorts go to here. The shirt went to here. Danny was helping me right before the shoot just pin the shirt to the shorts because it was so short. And
it probably would have been fine for someone like me who has like a very short waist.
Perfect for that. Well, and this shirt was interesting too because the pattern has you do basically a corset underneath. It has you do a liner underneath the shirt part that has boning in it. I couldn't figure out how to sew the liner to the shirt because I was finishing the shirt the morning of the shoot. I couldn't figure out how to sew the liner to the shirt in time, so I didn't add that liner, but I did think that was an interesting touch to have a corset built into your shirt. So that was kind of cool. I will explore that for a future cosplays because I kind of liked that idea.
Mm-hmm. That sounds cool.
The headband
Did it kind of just make the shirt more like form fitting, or how did the liner work?
I don't know how it would have worked. I was also a little bit concerned that adding the liner would make it too bulky.
Yeah.
But I don't know. When I redo it, I will give an update on how a liner with boning affects like a t-shirt effectively.
Perfect.
I guess it's not a t-shirt. It's a zip front shirt. Which is fun because it's anyway. So then I worked on the headband. Took almost no time at all. That was really fun. I had a like 100 pack of just black headbands that I got on Amazon for super cheap. And so I basically just wrapped the material around it, made like a offset triangle shaped tube and just slid the headband in and sewed it off and then tied a little bow right on top. So now this is not a functional headband.
Yeah, I remember watching your stream when you did this and you were like, actually, this doesn't make any sense at all because typically with a headband that you would put on like a bandana or something, you have, the triangle and you have the sides and then you would put it around and you tie it below. For some reason, the triangle was right next to the bow. Like it does like how would that ever function? Like
how did she do this?
Yeah, it would have to be like I don't know what the shape's called. But it would have to be a triangle and a ginormous, really long tail, and then to wrap around and then tie right next to the like.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
That was really funny.
That was poorly researched by the artist, but it looks cute, so we'll let it slide this time. Okay, so my actual favorite part of making this cosplay was these bracers, which I will need to redo, but I'm going to probably use the exact same process. So I made the base of the bracers pretty much the same way anybody on YouTube or Instagram or whatever is going to tell you how to make bracers. So if you want to hear that, Google it. But
go to her Twitch stream for cutting edge cosplay.
Yeah, watch me do it next time.
Visit her in the bear cave
every Tuesday. So I laid out the flat bracer pattern and I hooked up a projector, and it was the first time ever doing this, and it was so much fun and it worked so well. So basically, Bombshell Wonder Woman's bracers have all these stars and swirls and like it's very intricate, and I could not think of how I was going to transfer this pattern. How? From like one to the other and make them more or less like mirror images. Still, I have no idea how you would go about this other than like freehanding it twice. So I didn't want to do that because I wanted them to be as like close as possible. So I did sit down and draw out on a piece of paper all of these little stars and swirls that you see on the art of one of the covers. Took a picture of it, sent that picture to my email, and opened it up in Illustrator. You change the contrast so it basically turns into only black and white. And so then I just took that picture, sent it to a projector. I got the cheapest one I could find on Amazon because I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. And I built this most ghetto rig you can ever imagine. And the reason that I'm choosing to do it this way instead of just like freehanding it or whatever is because I'm a crazy person. To get this thing high enough. So I needed the projector to go straight down over my pattern. And so I ended up putting it on, well, I had this dream of making it actually a good setup. And so I went, to Goodwill probably and got this cheap, like a footstool kind of thing. And I took all this stuff off the footstool and it ended up with like a wooden frame. And I was like, perfect. Then after, once I make sure that this works, then I can just zhuzh it up with like fabric or whatever and make it look nice.
You can what it up?
Zhuzh.
What?
How is that spelled?
Zhuzh it up.
Fancify it. I don't know. But it was way too short because it was like my pattern was my material was here. The footstool came up to about here. The projector sitting on the footstool. It was like too close. So then I got one of those like plastic crate things, egg crates, I think they call them. Put that on top, still too short. Put another thing on top. It's like now this projector is precariously settled on top of this mountain of trash that I made, basically. Here's my setup. A lot of what you hear about cosplays is like as long as it looks good from 10 feet away, but this needs a revamp. The cord from the laptop to the projector is like stretched to the very extent that it could possibly be stretched. So this is my little projector, and then I can just plop it on here.
Gosh.
But it works.
We've got a fire hazard now. It's fine.
Oh my God.
But it worked. And so I was able to use that projected down image, trace it with a pen. And a pen was fine for this. When you trace with like a regular pen, it leaves indentations on the foam. Sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. In this case, it was perfect because I needed to go back over those with a knife anyways. So trace it with a pen, just flipped the image and traced it again on the other arm. And then took a craft knife and went back over all of those lines. Because not all the way through. Luckily on the craft knives, they have little stoppers. So you can make the knife as long or as short as you want it. So you gotta just feel what's right for you.
Feel what's right for you.
So I had it going to about 2/3 of the way through the foam, which is why why these ended up being too thick is I used a thick enough foam to be able to do that. Now that I've done it once, I would do it in mostly the same way, but I think I would just use the pen on like a 2mm foam and not go back over it with a knife. These just ended up being too bulky. So now you can see very clear indentations of where I cut into it. All those just ridges, just so nice. Oh yeah, this is gonna be great. I needed to make these edges. I didn't have any of those half round dowels. I'm actually having a really hard time sourcing those in the first place. So if you know where to get them, let us know in the comments. I need help. I've tried to source them a couple times since then. I couldn't figure it out. So in comes first time doing something number 2. I have a hot wire cutter. Basically this plane, and it has one single wire coming up and over, and you plug it in and it gets really hot. Simple, right? So I took a round dowel. The problem is, as you can see, they're quite round, and what I need is half of this. And I put it through the hot wire. With this hot wire, I haven't used it. And that worked out okay. It was actually surprisingly difficult to get directly down the center of the foam dowel. So I ended up, you can kind of see on this one, how this part is a little bit short and this part is much bumpier. These are two pieces of the same dowel and I just didn't nail that center piece. I decided to use the bigger end closer to my body to kind of give like this forced perspective kind of deal. Did it work? Maybe, but
it looks intentional.
Yeah. Oh, it totally was intentional after I fucked it up. Yeah. And then I put Warbler over the top, which I wouldn't do again. The reason for doing the Warbler was to make it really hard and to hopefully get more of a sheen, like a shininess. Unfortunately, it was really hard to get all of these lines. I had already drawn out the lines and then cut all these lines. And then once the Warbler was on, it took me about 3 more hours just to keep heating up the Warbler and poking it into the indents made by cutting all those lines.
God.
But it's working. Oh, can you see this at all? You'll be, oh, yeah, you can. Right there.
Gosh, I was going to ask.
Not worth
that must have taken so long.
It did. And I did it a couple of times because I couldn't quite figure out how to do it. At one point, I was like bragging about having acrylics because I could just poke it into the lines. But once the Warbler cooled off, it kind of lifted itself back out. So I went over these lines quite a few times. I don't think it's worth your time to do that. I do think the projector is worth it. And I do think using thinner foam would have been better.
So did you like put the Warbler over the foam flat, do all the poking, and then do the final heat shape? Or how did you maintain the shape with the Warbler while you were doing all the poking?
I didn't because I basically had this already formed because when I put these on, I formed it and then I put the edges around. And when you take 2 curved pieces of foam and glue them together, it kind of reinforces that curve, which is great. But it did mean that I put the Warbler on when it was already shaped, which was another kind of weird to do. So, learning experience. I'm of Team Warbler only on one side. A lot of people, actually, I did a poll on Instagram and also on my stream of whether people use the sandwich method, which is putting some underneath and some on top, or whether people do what I do and just do one side and kind of tuck the edges in, or if people don't use Warbler at all. And actually, most people use the sandwich method. More power to you. That's an expensive method. But yeah, so luckily I saved myself some time by just... The Warbler is just tucked around the edges. But yeah.
I feel like the foam would be more comfortable on the inside than like super hard Warbler.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't use Warbler 2 sides, so I only know the one way, but they're pretty comfortable. I think I have a little bit of limited mobility, it turns out. I was trying to like drink some tea earlier and I have to like I tried to make them short enough that I could still bend my arms, but it's looks great in pictures. Yeah, definitely something that I would do differently on this particular costume. Spend less time on these bracers, use a longer shirt pattern and just add the W myself. Otherwise, it was pretty smooth sailing. This costume was great. It was really fun to build. It was fun to have team spirit with everybody on the stream. I will continue to wear this one. It's really fun. It's really recognizable. I love the girl powerness of Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is one of those characters that you can wear to a convention and little kids will come up to you. And I just love sharing that amount of joy. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm glad that you're having fun with it too, with me. Is there anything that you guys would change about your process? Bunny?
Overall, the process was fine. It worked great until I got in front of a camera and suddenly it's like, nope.
That is so frustrating that, the day before it turns out fine. And then when you're trying to, go through the photos and like the posing and like you have to move around to do that. So it sucked that like didn't work out when it did, it was fine the day before.
And you did something that everybody says that you should do and nobody ever actually does. You did a test fit.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it didn't work. See, test fits are curses.
I
Don't listen to that. Do a test fit. Everyone knows what's a better way to do it, but
I mean, to be honest,
I never do.
Like, I kind of always do a test fit just because I'm so used to building the costume around myself that like it just inherently happens. Because like, yeah, I can kind of like cut these things out and stuff, but I'm going to put them up to my leg to make sure that they're the right size and the shape that I want and whatever else. And then like this shirt that's probably a little too big and these shorts that my ass is sticking out of, like I need to make sure that they like line up. So like my belt covers like any space in between, which I never have space in between because like I said, I have a short waist, but like at least it hides the line. And like, so like I would kind of put things together because that's just how I'm used to putting together a costume. It wasn't until a year ago, a little over a year ago, when I made my really big tails for Ari that I finally got like a body form. That's also in storage right now. So I wasn't able to use that. Instead, I'm just kind of putting things on. And like, even for like the halter, it's just like, okay, to make this work, I'm wearing the top. I still had like the little spaghetti straps attached to it, but like I cut out the little parts of the belt thing. And then I tried to use one half of it to kind of go around. I'm like, okay, my head's kind of stuck down here. Let's just take the two pieces and then we'll do like a little bit of Velcro on one side, a little bit of Velcro on the other. And then I'll have like a little strip that I can just attach them to. And so I did that. And then they were like longer than I needed, which is so I'm like, okay, let's just kind of drape them down around the back. And then, okay, well, they don't really stay there. So let's add some Velcro in some other spots just to keep them in place. And like, so then it's just like, okay, and then I can tuck these into the belt and then I can do this. So I kind of Frankenstein things together in the first place, but that's why I have to do kind of a cross test.
Okay.
Because that's just how I put it together. I actually had some help this time where someone was like willing to help put things together. I'm like, I don't know what kind of direction to give you because I don't know how to cosplay with other people like for the same outfit. Like, okay, I cut this out to the size I need. Here, help me figure out how to attach this to this because what I'm doing isn't working. And so, I mean, it was great having help, but at the same time, like, I just kind of slap things together and hope for the best. And it worked out great. It really did. But there's something about the camera. It just felt
movie magic.
Yeah. Yeah. The opposite.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, it looks great. It's just maybe your costume was just camera shy.
Yeah. No, it's like there was a demon inside of it. And it was just like, it's going to steal this soul. I can't let this happen. I don't know. It didn't work. So.
Oh my gosh.
And then Danny, I know you were saying that you actually like screen printed like a number of things, right?
Yeah. So I have a silhouette. It's something I kind of forgot to talk about earlier. Another piece of material that I used actually quite a bit for this cosplay was heat transfer vinyl and just vinyl in general. Like for the bat, my plastic bat, it says the Batwoman on it. And I just used my silhouette on vinyl and then I Mod Podged it over it so it wouldn't stick up and, come off. I should have done it there's a bat at the front here. I just used a Sharpie, but it kept, I was hitting all sorts of people with this. So it kept smudging and I would, I actually took this to a baseball field and was like messing around with it too. And dust kind of smeared it. I wouldn't recommend using a Sharpie on this because it will smudge. It will come off. It just won't be as crisp and clear. And plus I wanted that clean cursive font. I could not have done that on my own. So I needed to use the Cricut.
One thing you could have done is Mod Podge over the Sharpie, or another thing is just use like nail polish. Just to kind of put a coating on it so it wouldn't smudge.
That's a good idea. I even redid it. I even redid the bat, which was actually really dumb. It looks really dumb. I don't know how to draw a bat.
Okay, I'm like 6 inches away and it looks great.
Aw,
so
thank you.
That's better than like the 10 foot, 20,
what is the
20
safe
foot
distance
rule. Whatever rule we want to go with.
And then I did it on both sides, but I switched the font. So I kept this in mind for photo shoots because she does a lot of posing with her bat. So I had the Batwoman that you can read from this way if I have it like on resting on my shoulders. And then another pose that she does a lot is actually the bat, like with the bat, like she's going to hit somebody with it. So I switched the font. So when I'm actually like going to hit somebody with the bat, it still says the Batwoman. It's not upside down. So that was another little detail that needed a little bit of planning.
Good idea.
Nice.
Yeah. For the dress, this is something I wish I would have done differently. I wish I would have like cut out the vinyl first and put it on just to kind of see, like not permanently, what it looked like. It turns out I actually cut it out wrong, and so it's like a fat bat. He's chunky because there's some extra vinyl that was supposed the design was supposed to be actually cut thinner because I did not follow. This is supposed to be done with actual leather fabric instead. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't think I could do that. So I wanted to use the heat transfer vinyl with my silhouette. And I didn't print out the design correctly because you're supposed to do one half of the bat and connect it and actually sew it under the dress and then do the zipper. It's an invisible zipper in between. So then those join and the bat is supposed to look perfect and, you know, be joined at each side. And I was not confident that I could do that. So that's why I was like, I'm just going to heat transfer a bat over top at the very end and hope for the best. And it worked out pretty well, except for the design they printed out was because it's made to be tucked in under. There was a lot of extra room. So now he's like the little ears are far apart from each other and he's like kind of chunky. So yeah, that's something I definitely wish I would have done differently. And then also I had to be kind of careful. So the bat that I used a smaller, what are those called? Heat press? Like I have a Cricut t-shirt, like a giant Cricut press, and I have a little tiny one for like shoes and like little details and stuff. I used the little tiny one for the hat, but it kind of burned little holes like in the vinyl. I don't know if it's not very noticeable, but because of that stuff is made for like t-shirts, right? Like, you know, it's kind of thinner stuff. So, you know, I was putting it on this giant canvas hat. So, I mean, it might not be that noticeable, but that was like another thing that I was like, oh my God, I'm kind of burning it. So, just I definitely recommend using the heat transfer vinyl instead of like a very, very thick leather shiny fabric. Cause that for me as like a very beginner sewerista
as a beginner sewer rat.
Sewer rat. That's more fitting. Oh my gosh. Seamstress. As a beginner seamstress, I would not have been able to do it. Like, and those bat wings would not have lined up at all. So I think that was okay. Also the socks, I had to Sharpie multiple times because they had the white bands. Yeah, so that was another thing I wish I need to figure out how to do that differently.
You should have talked to me. So I went to a like secondhand sports shop, and not everything's secondhand there, but they have all kinds of different sports socks and stuff like that. There were actually baseball sock things, but really it was like where it's got the little sling that goes underneath your foot, and then it's just like the tube that goes up your leg.
I know what you're talking about.
They had this color.
I looked everywhere.
They had all kinds of options because I had a hard time with mine because my girl, she's got like red socks with like a white stripe and then a blue stripe and then a white stripe and then a red stripe and then like all these things. And I was just like, I bet you I can find this in some soccer socks or some baseball socks or something. And I was looking through, I had multiple options.
Oh, that's cool.
Especially with like red or blue or black. Like those are some of the main colors. And so I had like a handful of like all these different options. And I was just like, okay, I could take a Sharpie or whatever and color these others. And then I found ones that were like exactly what I was looking for. I was like, oh, fuck yeah. They were, I mean, technically they were large, so they were way bigger than I needed. But I'm like, I don't care. I'm wearing boots anyway. She wears combat boots. We're fine. But yeah, I could have found you whatever socks you needed. So.
That's good to know.
But yeah, secondhand sports shops normally have lots of options depending on whatever is sport or whatever, and makes it a lot easier than having to like Sharpie lines on or other things like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because that was a nightmare. I would not recommend or do that again.
I wonder if it would work because your socks they're red with black stripes, right?
And I could not find them.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if like there are white with black stripes and then you just dye all of it red because it wouldn't be dark enough to dye the black. And that might be a longer term solution.
I think I tried that and I couldn't get it that bright red color with the dye.
Oh no.
It was like a weird pink, awful color. No. So I think I did try to dye white socks red. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah. Depending on the time of year.
Oh, I think it like melted too. Like it's just like it was like a dumpster fire. I was like, what the fuck happened here?
Also, depending on the time of year, it's hard to find like knee-high socks. Like most of the ones that I found were crew socks. The only place I was able to find knee-high socks were sports stores.
Wow.
So, time of the year, man.
I don't think I've worn knee-high socks.
Seasonal cosplay.
I was 12.
Well, because like with soccer, your socks are more than knee-high because they need to be able to flip back over your shin guard to hold your shin guard.
Okay, I think I actually did get soccer socks then, maybe, because they are pretty long.
Okay, yeah. So I was looking at all the options to see whatever I needed. But I mean, I used to play soccer, so I knew I could at least find something like that. But yeah.
Another thing that I did was break multiple needles sewing this costume, especially for these. You can't quite see them. There's little ears, like bat ears, sewn onto the hat. And the hat is already very thick to sew through. And then also there's batting and also probably other stuff, the interfacing on these to make them puffy and to also make them stand up on their own. They're like little plushies. They're like little bat ear plushies that I'm sewing to my hat. So I ended up having to use a curved leather needle to get into the hat to be able to sew these things on.
Wow.
And I was doing it day of Emerald City Comic Con before.
Oh my gosh.
Because it just kept breaking normal needles and I tried running it through my machine, snapping the needles, like that wasn't going to work. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Like you might need to get different types of needles for these types of things.
Dang, that's intense.
Yeah. Did you have anything that you would probably do differently?
Yeah, I mean, I would sew my jacket by machine, not by hand for sure. Just like as a time saver thing. It's doable, but it's a lot. I would redo my bangs on my wig. So the wig was like one of the last things I did for her. And I curled it, which was just fine. But the bangs, I was so nervous. I didn't want to cut bangs into the wig because I'm like, what if I want to use this wig again and don't want bangs on it? And so maybe I can like cheat and just like roll the bangs up and just pin them there. And that wasn't working because wig hair is so heavy and difficult to work with unless you like do all of the things. And I didn't want to do all of the things. And so I didn't cut them at all, but I just I put foam rollers underneath and just rolled and pinned and prayed. And they stayed, but they're like pink foam rollers under there. And over the course of the shoot, the hair shifts a little bit. And at the end, there were like little bits of pink kind of popping out, which was okay. But I think if I could redo that, I would probably, I know they make like bumper bang inserts online for like retro hairstyle stuff, like they're called bumper bangs, and I would buy whatever roller system that is and do that just so it's done because the foam roller worked, but it is a very short-term solution.
I see.
Yep.
Like, yeah,
I'm gonna go and look at your pictures now and see if I can see them.
I know. I was taking like videos for like Instagram, like stories in the car, and I had to be careful not to turn too far to the side because you can see through the hole into like the pink foam roller.
I see.
It's like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I love
That's
the
so
creative.
That's such a good idea.
Shell.
I thought about like gluing the foam rollers together to make like a longer foam roller, but I was like, but I don't want to ruin my rollers. I was just stubborn about it, if we're honest.
Oh my gosh. Funny.
I don't know. I'm not very good with hair, so I was quite pleased with how quick and easy my hair went together with that like weird spiral thing and everything. Because I didn't have any bobby pins holding it. It was just like I took I was a straightener actually for the. And then it did like the curl, and then I just used a shit ton of hairspray. And I'm like, okay, well, hopefully this stays. So worked great.
Nice.
Do we want to talk about our next quarterly cosplay?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Come hang out with me on Tuesdays. We're having so much fun. So our next group cosplay is going to be Mario obstacles. But make them cute. And it's been such a fun journey so far. I'm going to be doing a Goomba. Don't look looking up reference pictures for this to try to create a cute cosplay for it was a little bit of a minefield because the first thing I typed in was sexy Goomba. Mistake. So I have the benefit of being it's not a very commonly done cosplay, so I can kind of do whatever I want with it. And I'm making this gigantic Goomba head and gigantic Goomba boots, my Goom boots.
Goom boots.
And then I have a really cute like little corset idea for the body part. It's going to be so dumb. I'm having so much fun. It's great.
I'm going to be dry bones. So this is going to be fun. I still need to pick up more cream makeup to get more of that very stark, like black and white coloring. But I think I'm going to have a lot of fun making the shell, as well as kind of some of the other aspects of the costume. So we'll see how it goes.
I'm excited for that. I am going to be Jane Jump. And when I was at SakuraCon, I saw that they were selling, it was the, what is it? Pink Godzilla Games or whatever, that little place. Pink Gorilla. Thank you. They have all these plushies of all the little Mario obstacles. I'm going to try to get those, but I got Jane Jump and I'm excited for that.
It's going to be so cute.
Mm-hmm.
Adorable. I'm going to be doing Piranha Plant. So she's going to be like a cutesy little Piranha Plant situation, red corset with like teeth coming out of the top and like skirts and stuff. And it'll be another one where it's kind of like a buy some, make some, alter some kind of a thing. Cause I'm going to attempt to do like a dip dye for her stockings because they kind of have like an ombre from like light green to dark green and that doesn't exist. So I'm like, let's see if we learn a new skill. So
cool.
It'll be a learning process on
That'll
this one
be fun.
too.
Yeah. Are we all going to be wearing corsets?
Probably.
I think it would be cool if we all were.
Probably.
Yeah.
That'd be
Let's
awesome.
do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. Be sure to check out our other YouTube videos, previous podcast episodes. And we're everywhere now. We're on Twitch.
We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're anywhere else you get your podcast.
And join us next time. The Cutting Edge Cosplay Podcast.
Robert Archie.
Bye,
everyone. Bye. The bracer tutorial, you're gonna there.
You're doing great.
Talking too fast for my thought.